through some imports real quick. We're going to show some Blender imports, the free add-on you can get. I'm going to start with the official SVG logo. So we import this, it's done. We're going to zoom in on it and you can see there's not much there. And this is because it doesn't support several of the SVG tags to reuse elements and rotate them around. It also doesn't support text. So real quick, let's compare this to what Spec.io will do. We'll hit import SVG. I'm going to grab the same exact one. And you can see we have some funkiness when it comes to the stroke. The stroke is really thick and you can still see it. You can play around with that, but the colors come in good. The element is able to repeat and we support the text. Here's one I imported of my county, and it's supposed to have a bunch of roads and landmarks and stuff, but because of the limitations in the Blender import, you can see it's having some trouble. Here's that same file imported through Spec.io, and you can see we at least have the roads where they need to go. The markers are all there, and there are labels that go along with them. So this is now pretty functional. Here I've got a scene with a camera. The camera is in the orthographic view. It's kind of important because everything's going to be based on this camera view. So if we've got the orthographic, then everything's a little bit flat. If you want to do the perspective, obviously things are going to skew. That's going to have a different look to it. But I'm going to switch it back to the orthographic because these logo type images are often in this kind of flat view. And logos are very popular for SVGs. I'm going to first show you the export through Blender. Let's go ahead and close this. And in order to do it, you're going to want to install your Freestyle SVG add-on. It comes free with Blender. You're going to check mark both of these boxes. I've looked for a couple different ways to get fills. I know in past versions of Freestyle in Blender, I was able to get filled faces. Don't think it's really happening anymore. We will go ahead and select the objects we want to export. And for this, we're going to need to render. And you can see that it shows the render. You can see these lines are what's going to export as the SVG, but it's not going to get these faces. So I'll show you what that looks like. So this is what that Freestyle SVG looks like. It did a good job of exporting the outlines, but then there's no faces. You could probably come into the SVG and edit that. Now if I take this same SVG and if I take this same scene, nothing's changed. All I'm going to do is export from the add-on. And this is what you get. You end up having every face is sampled for what its color is, and they're filled in. Yeah, I think this looks pretty good. But let me show you a trick for what this does since you now know that it uses every face to do color. We're going to divide it up and see what we can get. All right, I've got some loop cuts in here. It doesn't impact the geometry or anything, but we will do an export of that. And now you can see that we've got that gradient based on the faces. So this can be used to intentionally have this effect, or you can remove the unnecessary edges in order to keep it one solid color. So something to note here is what's kind of fun about this, since it's using the lighting, if we have a completely different cube, we can go ahead and do that real quick. This time, instead of keeping only the front-facing stuff, I'm going to keep the back-facing stuff. So I'm going to remove. So now we have a logo that essentially has the same exact shape, but the colors are very different just because of the lighting. I think this is pretty fun to be able to do and have these pseudo 3D effects in your SVG logo. And you can do all kinds of stuff with perspective and just have fun with it. So one of the cool things you can do, because this now supports a full import and export workflow, is you can bring things in as SVG flat, give it some dimensions, and then export it as we showed here, and even include some lighting, and then re-export it as an SVG, and it's flat again to be used as a logo in all the awesome ways that SVGs can be used. All right, hope you like this. I'm going to start attempting to add animation to this thing. I hope you like it and come back with some feedback into the Discord and let me know how it's working for you. Thanks.